What's up guys, this is Saiyan here coming at you with another deck profile, and we are still with Dragon Ball CCG, carrying on my caravan of deck videos. I have had a lot of time to think of decks, so today I have a Saiyan slash Giant Ape deck for you guys. You could call it Giant Ape 2.0. It's a very similar yet different take on the Giant Apes deck that I posted a few years back. But yeah, any other blabber, let's just jump into it, see what we have. Alright, so starting with the turn zeros, obviously being a Giant Ape deck, you are going to need a lot of Saiyans. Best one drop for a Saiyan deck is definitely Goku. Just good stats, overall good card. We like him a lot. This deck is very event heavy, as you are going to see, very true to its predecessor. So we are running Grand Kai, which is an excellent card whenever you're running events. Gives us the right chi as well. This is mostly a super alien deck. Well, not mostly, completely. And we have two old Kais for extra support, really, and that recycling power can be also fairly good. In some situations. Going into turn 1, the sub-theme of the deck is fierce, so trying to mill our opponent's deck as much as we can. So we have two Gohans here. Gohans are really underestimated, underrated perhaps, one drop, but he's a Saiyan, works really well in this deck, and if you get your Gohan damaged, he becomes a 4-1, he gets Fierce 2, which is excellent. We can potentially start fiercing in turn 2 with this deck if this guy gets injured. Turn 2, sorry, we have 3 Goten, and we run Goten because we want to be able to search for Trunks. We're not searching for the Kid Trunks, we are searching for the future Trunks, which I'm gonna get to in a minute. But first, we of course are going to run 2 Brolys here. It's a really powerful card, doesn't really need a lot of support. The drawback is you have to send it out to battle every turn. It's not really a drawback, let's be honest. It also has Fierce 1. So you know, if you hit your curve right and you Gohan down, Gohan gets damaged, gets injured, we'll have Fierce 1, Broly will have Fierce 1, really cool. But realistically, this deck will change pace in turn 4. And that's the main reason why we run 3 of the Gotens. We really want to hit this guy to be able to search for future Trunks, beefy Trunks. He's an excellent card, I quite like him. He's not the best event searcher. Obviously the best event searcher is our homeboy Turtles here. He gets the event into the hand, which is very, very, very good. But future Trunks also searches for an event, puts it at the top of your planet, top of your deck. And I'll show you that there is a fairly obvious trick that you can obviously do to get that into your hand as well. But we really want to get that Goten. Luckily, Goten has backups. Even if you charge him into Chi, you can still search your deck for future Trunks. Future Trunks also has backups, so hopefully if all goes well, you will be able to play a future Trunks in turn 4. Search for an event and go from there. What are we looking to get? Well, obviously we are going to need Full Moon to be able to transform our Saiyans into Giant Apes. And Giant Apes are the heart of the deck, but the deck can function without you using them. And that's one of the reasons why I caught the copy of the original Giant Ape. It was just taking up too much space. This guy has Fierce 2, Toughness. You can have as many as you want in play. Same goes for future Trunks here. You can have any number of these warriors in play. It doesn't matter that they have the same name, which is really cool. Also, even though Giant Ape would normally cost you 1 alien chi, it's actually not going to cost you any chi because you can't deploy this warrior. This warrior will come into play through the event card called Full Moon. So, we have Gohan with Fierce 2 potentially, we have Trunks with Fierce 1. Turtles, if he's better than Fierce because every time you send him out to battle, he will mill a card from the top of your opponent's deck, which is excellent. Also searches for an event, which is great. And the Giant Apes have Fierce 2. So ideally what you're looking to do is keep your Gokus in play when you get Full Moon down, change your Goku for a Giant Ape, or change your Turtles for a Giant Ape. Then you can replay Turtles and search for another event, which is also really great. You can even change your Goten into a Giant Ape. Then you can play out Goten again, search for another Trunks. So remember that whatever warrior you pick up to your hand, putting Giant Ape into play is not a deployment. It's actually put into play by a card effect. So if you haven't put a warrior into play that turn, you can still do your deployment, which can be very, very useful, being able to pick cards back up into our hands and be able to reuse them. So 3 Giant Apes here. And finally, we run 2 of the 6-drop Vegeta. I'm not gonna lie, probably running the 5-drop would be better. It will give you better chi consistency because it has both alien and super chi symbols. But our 5-drop is already fairly well occupied, having Turtles there and potentially dropping more Trunks, which is very much a something that you're gonna be doing, particularly if you can, get Giant Apes online, get that sort of theme running. But I also do like Vegeta, and I really want to find a home for this guy. He's got the best Vegeta artwork in the game, in my opinion. Also has Fierce 2, so he fits the theme. Jesus Christ, I don't know why I'm yawning this many times. Fits the theme of the deck, being a Saiyan, having Fierce 2, and if you have a Dragon Ball to put in him, whenever this guy's team wins a victory, an outstanding victory, you can give 1 damage to an opposing a warrior your opponent controls with a turn cost of 3. That doesn't have to be an opposing warrior. If your opponent's just keeping somebody on the deployment area, just really protecting it, usually Dr. Wheelos or maybe a Dr. Giro that they may be looking to keep to be able to heal an android or something like that. This guy can take care of that sort of engine running in the background. Obviously, turn 6 is very much late game, but I think the Fierce 2 is really where this card pays off. Just being able to have so many Fierce 2 cards in play to get, all this done for the deck. But again, I must emphasize that if my recommendation would really be to run the turn 5 Vegeta. It can search for techniques. It comes down a turn earlier. You may want to run a few Vegeta techniques with that guy as well. It could be a thing. But I kind of like this guy here. I think it's really cool that, obviously, very much fits the Saiyan deck style that this deck's going for. And also, let's not forget that you definitely want to have like a heavy hitter late game card in the deck as well, which again Vegeta just does an excellent job in being your your late game. If all falls down, you drop this Vegeta Super Saiyan and just hopefully get like a good grip on the game. I'm gonna start with events this time because again, as I said, it's an event heavy deck. Don't forget, every turn you can only play 1 event, so you really want to obviously think ahead of how you're going to sort of plan your turns and what you're trying to achieve. Probably the best draw event, certainly the best drawer event if you're running a theme, and because except the two Kais, every other card is a Saiyan. With UFO landing, you can technically start drawing at turn 2. If you drop a Goku, then you drop a Gohan, then you drop a Goten. By the end of your turn 2, you will be looking at drawing a card of UFO landing. Might be turn 3 in some cases. It's still worthwhile dropping this UFO landing as soon as you can. If you have a Grand Kai out just to pump this guy, it gets +1/+1 for each event you control. So it's a one turn cost, time limit of 3. So it does stay in play for pretty long. And if you can stack these guys, if you can get 2 out, like let's say you get 1 out in turn 2, or you get 1 out in turn 1 and you don't really have all the Saiyans, but you also get 1 out in turn 2, and now you get all the Saiyans. You're actually drawing 2 cards at the end of your turn. So it's far and few between that you get lucky enough to get both or all 3 into your hand. By the time you start to search for events, you are looking at turn 4. So by then, UFO landing should definitely be online. But again, as I said, even if it is, you feel like, yeah, you really want to draw cards of it, but you can't, that pump for Grand Kai is very much worth that 1G. This one is 3 Z Warriors gather. Now I understand that it's probably difficult to get a hold of even one of these, let alone 3. But the deck really does need the Warriors Gather. If you can't run it, not a problem. I would highly recommend running new Scouters. 3 new Scouters if you don't have Z Warriors Gather. Scouters will give you that card selection rather than drawing a card in your mission phase at the beginning of the turn. Sorry, the start phase, whenever you draw your card, you get to look at the top 2 of your deck, pick 1 into your hand and put the other one either at the top or the bottom of your deck. So it really does give you a fairly good card selection. But what we really want Z Warriors Gather for is its second ability, where we can basically, if our opponent's running out, an Exploiting the Weak or a Burning Attack or a Shockwave to get rid of, or a Solar Flare. The Spirit Ball from set 1, which also gets rid of an event. We can put this on the chain, move it to our chi area, and our events cannot be targeted or affected by our opponent's effects this turn. So most importantly, even though yes, it does give us the ability to search our deck for a warrior, which is very useful, particularly if you're looking for a giant ape or a turtles or anything that you need. It just gives you that ability to search your deck, which is amazing. But the second ability is what is really, really, really useful, in particular in this deck. We also obviously wouldn't be able to deploy, or not even deploy, put into play our giant apes without full moon, and you will be wondering, well, why are you only running 2? I'm only running 2 because it is turn 4 by the time you get to play this. Turn 4, you normally want to have a Trunks in play, and you have quite a few ways to get Trunks into your hand to be able to search for full moon. So obviously latest by turn 5 you have full moon. Ideally you want this down in turn 4. So again, remembering that you can only play 1 event per turn, you really need to think about how you're going to plan this out. Full moon doesn't have a time counter. Obviously that's also very good for us. It just stays in play unless removed, so it will give permanent buff to Grand Kai. And if you're wondering how are you going to get to your Trunks, so you got 3 Z Warriors Gather, you got 3 UFO landings, you got 3 Goten to search for that guy. A lot of ways to hopefully get that guy into your hand. He's also got backups, so honestly, if you can't get a Trunks into your hand by turn 4, unlucky, I suppose. And also we run 2 Cold Legacies. Again, only 2 because yet again it's a turn 4 drop. Although time limit of 3, it does give us a lot of benefits. Or if an opponent has 5 cards in their discard. All our warriors will get Fierce 1. Now, if your warrior already has Fierce 1 or Fierce 2, this is not going to buff that. It would just basically like, okay, it has a Fierce 1 and then it has another Fierce 1 under it, but it doesn't add up. It's not going to get Fierce 2, basically, is what I'm saying. But for cards like Goku, for example, or Grand Kai, these cards will also get Fierce 1. So getting to that +1/+1 that you get if your opponent has 10 plus cards in their discard, it's actually going to be fairly easy. So then it pumps everybody on your side, just making it a really excellent card. I love Cold Legacy. Really, really worthwhile running it here because of the fierce theme that we have running anyway. Now, if you have the Trunks out and you search your deck for that Full Moon, for example, but you can't, obviously, you really have limited supplies to be able to draw cards immediately. So we are running 2 burning attacks. I really would like to run 3, and again, if you're not running Z Warriors Gather, I would probably recommend running a 3rd burning attack. And also, just to finish off on that, we're also playing 3 Powerful Heritage. Powerful Heritage must be played because it's a straight up +5/+0 to all the Saiyans we have. You can just basically OV one of an opposing teams with the one giant ape, potentially, to get that to Fearsome. It's an excellent card, really, really needs to be in this deck. But Burning Attack is also really good. It does just so many things for such a cheap cost. You can play it in your action phase, any strategy phase. Ticks a warrior's turn cost down by 2. Also gives them -2/-2 until end of turn, and you can also discard an event with 2 or less counters on it, and of course that all goes for the permanent events as well because they have 0 counters on them. It's just absolutely brilliant. And if you have Trunks as the user of this technique, then you draw a card as well. So the idea is, if you have a Burning Attack and a Future Trunks in your hand, you drop the Future Trunks, you put Full Moon on the top of your deck, then you Burning Attack, minus one of your opponent's cards in the strategy phase, you draw that Full Moon into your hand, you then play the Full Moon, potentially buff the Grand Kai, and immediately you can get your Future Trunks transformed into a giant ape if you have one in your hand. 7/0 stays the same for sure, yes, but you got that Fierce 2 ability, and then you can replay Trunks next turn. Again, don't forget you can have up to 3 Trunks in play, which is just really good. If Goten is behind Trunks, Goten gets +1/+1. So just these 2 guys together are a team power of 10. 7 plus the 2/+1 for Goten here at the back. So there's a couple of neat things you can do in this deck for sure. And to answer some of the questions that I can imagine popping up in the comment section is, why are you not running Powerball? I'm not running Powerball because it's not needed. Certainly not needed in this formation of the giant ape deck because it does just take up a lot of space. The Powerful Heritage can be used by anybody, and you need to do a lot of fiddling around with how you build your teams when you go out attacking. With the Powerballs, you basically need to have your giant apes as your support warriors, and then obviously play Powerball to be able to change their stats. You also need the Burning Attack because it's just so many. It's like the Swiss knife of this game, honestly. It does so many things. That draw card just of Trunks is brilliant to bring that event into your hand. Being able to remove events is very important in this game. It's one of the reasons why I'm running the 3 Z Warriors together here. There's a lot of opportunities to change this deck, of course. If you're lacking some event searchers, I would say probably run the 3 Full Moons. So hopefully you'll luck into it. But I'm not really worried with even getting these into cheap because I can recycle them with old Kai. Um, so there you go. That's another opportunity. But these two, I really want to get them early game. That's why I run the full play setup. And these two can easily come down later on in the game. Obviously through search or whatnot, trunks or turtles, and just get those online. One other important thing, we are running Goku and we are running Vegeta. So yes, you can fuse into Vegeta or Gogeta. Realistically, if you do fuse, you probably want to fuse into Gogeta, to be quite honest with you. Uh, just you're probably going to be in a tough situation, so what you're going to need is a warrior that can dish out some damages with the use of powerful heritage, can search for a technique which you can circulate back with old Kai, so you always have that backup to go into Gogeta. Anyway, Gogeta's turn 7, so Vegeta being a turn 6 is not an issue, but if again, if you'd rather run the 5-drop Vegeta, I would totally understand. I think that is the more solid option, just comes down a turn early. Stats aren't too dissimilar. I think it's a see if I have one lying around somewhere here. Yeah, there's gonna be one here. There you go. So this guy, similar stats as I said, 6'2". This guy is a 7'2", so you're not losing out very much. You don't get the fierce effect, which again, I think this deck really likes this Vegeta for that reason. But it just gives you a little bit more early game interaction, I suppose. And the second ability where you can search for a technique is fairly good. But I think there is definitely space for our 6-drop Vegeta here. It just does a really good job. What you also might have noticed, I'm not running any Wheelo, I'm not running any specific techs in here in this deck. It's to me, this deck is very much a Saiyan deck in the purest sense, where we're just we're really utilizing our cards effects being Saiyans with UFO landing, powerful heritage. We're definitely utilizing our fierce Code Legacy, obviously all the fierce cards, and then if you are able to pull off the full moon regime and get those giant apes into play, even better. But it's not a necessity. The deck can win without you having to spam giant apes, which I found with the previous iteration of this deck that I've built a few years back, is that you really need to rely on those giant apes to come down and start beating down, whereas in here, much less so. Another thing is that obviously reading on the rules, you're actually going to you're not going to be able to get future Trunks down if you have already a young Trunks down. You can, but the young Trunks needs to be then sacrificed basically. The future Trunks can be in play though. You can also fuse into Gotenks if you want to, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Again, probably the only benefit I can see in fusing into Gotenks is the Thrash one, which can be very powerful. But realistically, the idea is that you spam your guys that you can have multiples in the game of, and just win through that interaction more often than not. But again, this is one of many decks that is very easily customizable. There are a lot of different Saiyans out there. Obviously, if you want to go more into a Trunks specific build and get Trunks to be transforming into giant apes, you might want to run Ascending to a new level and then just run different Trunks. Maybe run the 2-drop Trunks and then run the set 3 Trunks, the one that basically digs through your planet damage. That's a really good one. I get that guy down turn 6 with a growth coin. It's got obviously super heal again. You might want to benefit more from the super heal abilities. I have actually been thinking about this deck with not exactly this deck, obviously taking out the Giant Apes element, but a similar deck with Pain and Power. I actually have a list for that, so stay tuned for that deck as well, because it is coming towards you in the near future. But for now, this is it. Don't forget to rate, like, subscribe, comment below if you want to chat about this game. And we also have a Facebook group. I'm going to link it down in the description below, so come and join us in the community as well to discuss even more Dragon Ball CCG. Peace out, YouTube.